Hi and good evening. Um, this video is about a previous video that I had made where I said I was leaving Cakewalk Sonar, Cakewalk by BandLab, uh, and going to Cubase. So I did do that, and eventually I came back after a few things changed about the situation. Anyways, so in a nutshell, if I were to just say the history of Cakewalk Sonar, if you're pondering uh, using Cakewalk Sonar, it's one of the first DAWs out there. I think it was Pro Tools, Cubase, and Cakewalk were the original ones. So Cakewalk is obviously used in studios. It has all the bells and whistles and everything that somebody who has a studio needs. Um, uh, but just in a basic sense, basic lineage, the history of it is Cakewalk was uh, its own entity, and I've never had a problem with their support except when Gibson bought it, but I'll get to that. So originally, Roland bought up Cakewalk, and eventually they got out of the DAW business and for their own business reasons. And then Gibson Guitars came along and bought it up. But then Gibson went through financial difficulties in a huge way. And all I can say is they essentially just ran it into the ground. I remember the support was hugely lacking during that period. And that was what made me start thinking about checking out another DAW. Originally, way back, uh, I think I've been using Cakewalk since, I don't know, 2005 or something like that. And uh, back at the start, I pondered getting Cubase, and during that whole Gibson nonsense, and a bit onward after this new Singaporean company took it on, I just found it wasn't stable. It was really hurting. Um, so so what happened after Gibson ran it into the ground? They eventually put it up for sale, and then the company that makes BandLab, a Singaporean company. I wish to God they would actually give their core business uh, a name that is, just a normal name. I don't know what it is. Maybe somebody else knows. But I'll just call them BandLab. They bought up Cakewalk and then called it Cakewalk by BandLab. So they started working on it, and I think behind the scenes they were working on it quite heavily to bring it up to snuff. So they discarded a lot of the fluff, a lot of the different unneeded plugins. They increased the stability and brought it back to a normal, uh, you know, good, stable uh, uh, situation. And eventually they called it Cakewalk Sonar. It was an actual separate application. So this is right when I was kind of just fed up and I said, okay, I'm going to go over to Cubase. Even though I was disappointed about having to leave Cakewalk. I've always enjoyed using it, and it's smooth. It's fast. It's got a very fluid display GUI for you to be able to get things done. And but I just had enough, so I went over to Cubase, bought Cubase, and then that was fine. I just found Cubase had a few fluidity issues that I didn't like. Like it just didn't, it made certain things a bit clunky that I needed to do. And I think this is why people like Cakewalk Sonar. So I ended up, after the fact, I bought Cubase working in it. Then I found out that the Singaporean company got, or essentially stopped supporting Cakewalk by BandLab, and they came out with a new application, their flagship DAW, and they stayed true to the name, so they called it Cakewalk Sonar. Completely separate application, and the support is superb. I've run into issues, and they're really trying to just uh, get all these issues caught up on, and uh, just they depend on the community that uses it to be able to people reporting things, and they improve the product steadily. But since they've been on top of it, what the Cakewalk by BandLab was free, so you could just buy it, download it. Now they're now they have Cakewalk Sonar, and to be able to get the updates, the support updates, you have to spend $100 a year. So I mean, it's a piddly amount when it comes to a DAW, but like Cubase, I think I spent about $400 or $500 on that. Um, Eventually, Cakewalk Sonar is going to get to that point once they really stabilize a lot of the stuff. And I think out in the industry, they used to be acknowledged on products that you buy, like a plugin. They always mention like Pro Tools and Fruity Loops and Cubase and a multitude of a few other ones. But eventually, they just kind of stopped mentioning Cakewalk because it went through that whole Gibson period where it floundered. So I remember I was looking at a instructional video by someone who has Cakewalk, and they said, or down in the thread of comments, somebody said Cakewalk is a child's toy compared to Cubase and uh, other DAWs, and that person obviously hasn't been around DAWs for very long because Cubase and is comparable, or I should say, Cakewalk is comparable with the other DAWs. It Most people gravitate to Cubase and Pro Tools, but I've gone online and I've used Pro Tools, and I think with any DAW you end up getting gripes. Like if you go on and you're trying to get something resolved, there's always support issues. They're always fixing something and trying to keep the stability of the product intact. So when you have a DAW, you need a very solid support system on it. So it doesn't disappear when you go like I did. I just went, oh, I'm going over to Cubase. I soon started to see different issues with it. Uh, and the thing is with Cakewalk Sonar, it's currently like they're trying to. I'd almost say it's like a beta version. Like they're still developing and trying to build it up uh, as a better product. And I like that. It's kind of like they're the underdog trying to establish themselves again up with the big boys, Pro Tools, Cubase. I think what's it called? Nuendo. I think Steinberg, the company that owns Cubase, they actually have another portion of the market for uh, another dog called Nuendo, I believe. And I think it's more on the video side, but don't quote me on that. But those two are the big ones that hold a lot of the market share. Cakewalk is like several others, like FL Studio and I think Reaper, uh, even I think the Apple one is a little bit more. I forget the name. It evades me right now. But anyways, I ended up coming to uh, back to Cakewalk when I found out that Cakewalk Sonar was this new application, and I'm very happy with it. There are issues, you know, like with any DAW, you're going to run into instabilities, but I find Cakewalk Sonar is very fluid, and it has an intuitive way that you can just get around and do stuff. So they make the main area as basic as possible, but you can just pull up things. They have these nice modular uh, side panels, bottom panels. I think you can, uh, yeah. So yeah, you can see your console view down here. I'm not going to go into the details of this, but there's like with any DAW, there's like a ton of different things that they can do. Um, that's there's plenty of videos out there about such things. I'm just very happy that they've gotten back to making it a reliable product. So that that rocks. Um, but I'm not sure if I mentioned, maybe I did, but the Singaporean company, the guy who owns BandLab, he also owns other uh, uh, he owns like a music instrument company. So he has a music angle, and he's uh, does very well in South Southeast Asia, and and he's doing well. But his father is one of the huge, if you can call him a baron in you've heard of lumber barons and mining barons and these people, these rich individuals who you know are very uh, prominent in a particular industry. Well, he's uh, one of the biggest producers of palm oil, and you can imagine, like, it's palm oil is massive, like worldwide. Wide, it's used in plenty of bad foods, but they they definitely have deep pockets, and the son seems to do quite well with uh, with the musical branch that they're doing. They probably have others. I don't know, but yeah. So I'm now back using Cakewalk Sonar, and I'm very happy about it. It does it's definitely way more stable than when Gibson had it. And it's not a slight against Gibson, but they realized obviously that they shouldn't be in the DAW business. And but I get updates. I pay that $100 membership uh, yearly, and I get updates about every month. And there's they're just constantly working on it. Boom, boom, more more development, uh, providing more enhancements, and I think what they're doing is they leave it as basic as possible, so you can go in and you can set up uh, a few of their plugins to use. But when it comes to the uh, where are you? Pro Tools. Here we are. So they have various built-in plugins for if you're just trying to create a song and you don't want to have to go to other companies and buy other products. Cakewalk will provide you with all the basics, uh, like instruments, all that stuff, and they keep it as uh, I guess as not basic isn't the right word, but you have all of the availability to make songs within the DAW. Um, but for myself, I don't use any of the products within it. I go for third party companies, and I mean, there's a huge amount of them out there. So if I go over to I have all of these companies. I've been doing this a while, so I've accumulated quite a number of them, and so they're yeah. And that's what happens when you get into music. You start going, you know, I'd like to expand a bit on this or that, and you can imagine how difficult it must be for a company that has a DAW to be able to make everything as stable as possible for all of these plugins. So the company has to, or any of these companies have to do their development so that I think all the companies that have DAWs have a particular standard. So if you are doing uh, if you're with any of them, Pro Tools, blah, 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 uh, they all uh, follow a particular standard. So, and I don't have any problems with any of these plugins. Back when Gibson had it, I can tell you, boy, oh boy, I was just going, oh, geez, not again. And of course, Waves is like waves.com has like a ginormous amount of plugins, but uh, it depends on what you're building, what you're creating. I use some of these sometimes, uh, and other ones I don't use very much, and some I don't use. I bought it, but then I realized I didn't really need it down the road. So um, yeah, if you're gonna buy a DAW, Cakewalk Sonar is quite exceptional. It'll get you up and running, and yeah, I've been using it for years, and I really like how it's laid out and the functionality of it. So there you go. I won't make this video any longer, and have a good one.